Okay, we're back on the bench here with the Autocar A64B. Uh, Here's our frame and rolling stock, engine, drivetrain. It's all in there. So again, we're going to do an opening, at least on the driver's side, an opening hood. And so here's kind of what we did. We got a bent wire hinge, two Z-bends, one on each end, obviously. We're going into the part of the plastic structure, the tabs that are meant to hold the side panel in line, like so. So they're just meant to line it up flush. What I did was just drill a hole through each side, put a Z-bend on either end of length of wire, and I use these pins that I get. It's not really a, I don't know what you call it. It is a pin, but it's not. It's not a, doesn't have a point on it. There's no point to this pin, other than it makes it's bendable, pliable wire, and it works really well for situations like this. Let me see if. All right, so the two Z-bends into the holes. I put a stopper on this end, and that's to keep the door from being able to slide either way. So this hole does not go all the way through. This one does, and that's so I can fit them both ends in to their respective holders. And then once they're in, I put a stopper on the back end here to keep everything stock still as far as side-to-side movement. Don't want any side-to-side movement in that. We just want to be able to fold, like so. And you see we get a nice hinge line, right? Still a nice straight line, still flush, able to bend out far enough to work with the fenders and the body. And the body itself actually helps hold everything together in place. Once we get this on here, see if I can press that in without collapsing it with one hand. But there you can see that, I think you can see, we've got a nice flush fit. Oh, yeah, there I did what I didn't want to do, but everything's fine. No harm done. And that little bead around the cab will act as a bump stop and keep the hinged panel from folding into the motor where we don't want it. Right? We want nice free movement, but we also want it to, when it's closed, to look closed, if that tracks. All right, so that's our hinged side. The other side, I still haven't added primer to this side panel, and the top panel, the hood panel, is obviously right here where I just had it. Okay, so on this side, we'll just go ahead and pre-glue this. I think I might actually paint before gluing. So this one is going to be black. Let me think. This is red and this is black. I got to go back and look at my dang old photo. But at any rate, we'll paint them separately and then glue them on. And we'll mount. The first thing to be mounted. Let's go. I'm all over the place. So we're going to paint these black, mount them, which will create the dimension that we need to know the distance between. In other words, I need to know how high these panels need to be. I need to know if they need to be sanded down or if I need to add strips of styrene to the bottom to bring them into shape, into the proper height and so forth. So whichever way we need to go, obviously we'll need to establish that before I do any painting on the hood. So next step here will be to paint the fenders black and put them onto the model, keeping them perpendicular and flush and aligned. And probably the best way to align these will be with the bumper installed. So we'll install the bumper, fit these behind the bumper as they go. We'll use the bumper line as a reference for whether or not, in other words, I don't want these tilted, obviously I don't want them sagging down, I don't want them tilted in. I want them flush, And the best way to track that initially will be with the bumper installed. So it's unusual for me to put trim parts on ahead of painting and all that stuff, but you know, every project is different, and order of assembly you have to be flexible with. You don't want to come in with a mindset that I paint the body, I put it here, I do this, I'm going to follow the instructions completely. If you follow the instructions directly by the number, it may interfere with your painting process. If you follow an idea that you have for painting that gets ahead of assembly, then you could run into a problem there. So, you know, ideally you're in a flow as you go and making assessments kind of on a running basis, a running assessment of what can I do next, what should I do next, and how to proceed and all that. So, you know, a great deal of time in model building is devoted to structure, is devoted to your process, is devoted to order of assembly, and you have to keep a running kind of assessment of the project itself as you go forward to know what steps to do next. And you know, it's easy to get tripped up, but you know, quite a bit of time. I think the point I'm trying to make is almost, you know, more time is in a model project is cerebral than it is manual or physical. Because if you're not a step or two ahead of your process, you can end up in a hole and have something to undo, and you don't want that. So you want to be thinking ahead, and also you want to be executing each step as best you can, and not be thinking about something else in the middle of something you're actually doing. So in the moment of the process that you're in, you want to be wholly invested in it, but then at the conclusion of that step, whether it's a painting step or an assembly step, you want to take a minute and reevaluate and reassess where you are and what you need to do next, and really get a big picture sense of it. Constantly evolving big picture. If that makes sense. I know that's one of my repeated phrases. Take your time, think it over, step by step and all that stuff, but you know, the steps should really be your own. Once you get past the initial experience of building a kit and you start investing more time and energy into expression, you know, how you want to build it. And so the transition from one to the other means you're going to have departures from the assembly instructions and take it upon yourself to reorganize how you're going to build. And that's just, you know, from, if you want to call me an experienced builder, I don't know. I've been doing it for a while, but others know more than I do about this, and others are better at many aspects of model build. I'm just one of the knuckleheads who does it and posts videos about it. So there's that. If any of the information is helpful, if any of the, you know, suggestions I'm making, or whatever you want to call what I'm making, are helpful, that's great. If you have any questions about what I do or say, submit them in writing to the President of Mexico, and we'll respond to those as soon as we get them. Okay, let's see. So for next step, I still need to build up the interior. We're going to go with a black over gray over maybe a little bit of red trim, dark wood dash, and then I want to get the fenders painted and installed. Then we're going to orient the cab to the truck body, to the hood, so we can establish our paint lines, our demarcation lines, where we're going to transition from red to black to red, and so on the cab. We'll get that. We'll get this primered. Get a coat of primer all over it. Block out the windows from the outside. Get the interior painted. Block out the windows from the inside with tape. Mask them, I guess, not block them out. Mask them. tape our exterior to our demarcation lines that we want for our red and black transitions. Paint all over red, mask the red off and spray the black, and so on. I still need to do the tank trim. Again, the trim on the tanks, the straps are going to be red. The tanks go roughly here and here on either side of the truck. It won't quite stay, I don't think, but that's where the tanks go. So the project's moving forward. We're getting there. Lots of work to do yet, but it looks encouraging. It looks like the hood's going to work. I'm really hopeful about that. I think it's going to pan out. Right. So if anybody has any observations, any questions, any suggestions for me, that's great. Put them on the channel, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Have a great holiday. Today is Thanksgiving here today. I don't know when you watch the video, it won't be, but it is today while I'm making it. So, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for viewing the channel. Appreciate you all. Have a great day.